I just wanted to make a video, kind of just spitballing my mind out into the world. This is kind of just off the cuff, random little schizo tangent I wanted to go on because I was eating with my family the night at dinner and we got into a discussion about the Elder Scrolls, right? And then I was filling in my family who know of the Elder Scrolls and they've played them, but they're not as big as a tism tickle as I am about the Elder Scrolls. Okay, so I was kind of giving them the whole rundown about the recent, the lore master leaving Bethesda, the whole thing about it. It's going to be like 2030 by the time Elder Scrolls 6 comes out, if it ever does. And I just had a big idea that I kind of wanted to just put into video form and just speak into the ether about this because I don't have anyone else in my life who's passionate enough about the Elder Scrolls to really have this kind of talk with and really want and like put it down and have someone really understand what I'm talking about and the copium behind it and the hopium behind it and honestly it's literally just a crackpot schizo theory basically about the Elder Scrolls, right? I've just got some random B-roll of somebody's random Daggerfall playthrough here because I personally have never played Daggerfall, but honestly, the concept of Daggerfall is probably my favorite concept of the Elder Scrolls. I've only ever played Morrowind when I was very, very young. I played Oblivion when I was not so young, and I've played Skyrim since it came out in 2011. I'm currently, through my mid 20s right now. Skyrim came out when I was in middle school. I really wanted a new Elder Scrolls game, right? So basically, to get started, as I said, Daggerfall is my favorite theory of a game, of an Elder Scrolls game ever. It takes place in a wider world where you literally have to walk the realistic distance it would take to get somewhere, right? So imagine that, but with modern Bethesda's resources, I guess you could say, to be able to make a world that large and then have it at the same handcrafted level as Skyrim and Oblivion. That would be amazing, right? It's rumored that the Elder Scrolls 6 is going to take place in either Hammerfell or High Rock or both, which, Daggerfall kind of, takes place in High Rock and Hammerfell and the surrounding areas, and it would be really awesome if we could revisit that area with modern graphics and modern, like, Bethesda game touch, right? Because, like I said, I'm a fanboy of Bethesda. I've loved the Elder Scrolls since I was a kid. I've loved Fallout since I was a kid. Uh, I like the modern Doom games, but they're not really my thing. But they were good games. Um, you know, they've had a good run in my life. Like they're still in good light. There's a lot of nostalgia. Their games have always been super buggy and stuff, but I've always loved their games. But where my theory starts to come in is part one of the schizo theory is Daggerfall used procedurally generated worlds in between handcrafted villages and handcrafted towns and handcrafted POIs, right? So, with the advent of Starfield, where they were toying around with this procedurally generated stuff that they haven't done since Daggerfall. So, if you combine those two systems together, where you have your handcrafted locations and then you have filler locations in between that, that's what they've done with Starfield's level design. So, my copium theory is with them sidetracking on Starfield, which ultimately was basically a flop in the eyes of the community. Whether it sold that many copies or made money or whatever is irrelevant to the court of public opinion, right? So it's not as beloved as Elder Scrolls, obviously. It's not as beloved as Fallout. So, what I'm thinking is the reason why they did Starfield is because they were testing the system and, reworking the creation engine to theoretically put world generation into the creation engine to make a procedurally generated world, or if not world, instance. So part two of my schizo theory, where things start clicking together, is Daggerfall took place in Hammerfell and High Rock. The new game is rumored to be taking place in Hammerfell and High Rock. So they both take place in the same area. Different times, obviously, but same area. They just wasted a whole bunch of time and money on a game that the community pretty much rejected. But they were using it as a test bed for all these features of procedural generation. So, what if the Elder Scrolls 6 is going to be a spiritual reboot of Daggerfall, but in the modern creation engine, so that they can have it the physical size of what it is in the lore, with the spaces in between of these handcrafted areas that Bethesda is known and loved for, be filled in with procedural generation. And then, of course, you have like different anchor points throughout the map of like, oh, well, this is like a fortress that is in this area, and this is a temple that's in this area. So it's still a handcrafted POI, but then everything else is random encounters and random events. Part 3 of the schizo theory is there's rumored to be boats and fast travel and stuff of the sort in Elder Scrolls 6, like vehicles, like the ship management in Starfield. What if airships are canon in the Elder Scrolls universe? As far as I understand, they are canon. Airships are canon. And so what if the ship builder mechanic from Starfield is shaped into the Elder Scrolls by either A, having a literal boat on the water that you can own and operate with a crew, or, and it can scale all the way down from a little dinghy boat all the way up to a battleship, with cannons and everything. And then, or you could have your typical horse and carriage, and maybe even a Dwemer vehicle of some sort, maybe. And then we get on to, what if you had your own airship that is like a player home that you can customize and upgrade and build using the same mechanics that have already been crafted in Starfield. And then, next part of the schizo theory is, what if they take the settlement building from Fallout 4 and Fallout 76 and put it into Elder Scrolls 6, where you end up with like, I can't remember the name of it, but that mod that adds a buildable town west of Riverwood. For the life of me, I can't remember what it is. I've had some fun with that mod, building different, a town and different setups, and having, getting the extended companion mod so that I can, build all these houses and put my companions in them, like I'm building a little town and everything. And then that would be amazing. Imagine you pull up with your ship, or you pull up with your caravan of carts, or you pull up with your airship, land somewhere, and you hop out and start building. Or what if, like, you get in good graces with a local lord, and you're able to build on his, or like he gives you a deed to a land, and you can build your own settlement. That would be so awesome for an Elder Scrolls to have, like, Fallout 4 tier, if or better, building system. I would love that so much. Okay, so then the next part is, if they're going to do this procedural generation with the handcrafted POIs, would that go over with the community well? For me, I honestly don't think the community at wide would love that idea, purely just because people are going to think, oh, it's procedurally generated. Oh, it's just AI slop. We don't want that in our game. We want a handcrafted Bethesda experience, just like we loved in Fallout 3 and Elder Scrolls Oblivion and Skyrim and onwards. And I understand that. And I'm part of that camp as well. I love Skyrim. I love Skyrim, and I probably will continue playing Skyrim until I'm probably in an elderly home. But having that wide of a world where you can just walk for days in a simulator game almost like another game is Kingdom Come Deliverance that I'm really in love with, and Kingdom Come Deliverance 2. I wish Bethesda would go back to the Daggerfall and the Morrowind kind of system where it was heavily D&D focused, because I love D&D. I love being able to craft a character. I love making a character sheet. I love trying different character combos to try and min-max my character. I love that stuff, and being able to do that again in an Elder Scrolls game without having to put a 9,000 mod pack on it to be able to do that would be amazing if they would go back to the roots of doing that. And we kind of seen that a little bit with Starfield, where they added like the backstory and the perk selections and stuff like that. I hope they iterate on that and put it in Elder Scrolls 6, because taking the Elder Scrolls back to its more role play, especially nowadays where AI, whether you like it or not, is becoming more and more and more prevalent in these games, and them being able to use AI as a tool to help them with branching quest ideas and like how many different ways can you skin a cat doing this quest. That is amazing, but also scary at the same time, because the last thing we want is just AI slop in our games, right? But I'm in the camp of using AI to explore ideas and then using human hands to implement those ideas is the way to do it. Because it's just undeniable that AI is going to be a part of our future, whether you like it or not. But being able to have an Elder Scrolls on that scale again would be amazing. And another thing is, I hope that they bring back the extended magic list from like Morrowind and even Oblivion for that matter. Because I love Skyrim, and it, obviously it's the easiest game out of the whole series to play, right? It's just the most modern, the the easiest for a modern audience to just play, right? Imagine if we could have Daggerfall or Morrowind be as approachable as Skyrim is without Skyrim's kind of, I don't mean it in like a negative sense, but diluted gameplay. So whether I love Skyrim and whether you like Skyrim or not, or you're old head or new head, the streamlined system of Skyrim and the most people say dumbing down of the roleplay is the main reason why Skyrim blew up and was as big as a game as it is, because it is so easy to pick up for the masses, whether you're an RPG nerd like me, or whether you're a tabletop nerd also like me, or whether you're just there for a hack and slash. Skyrim does a little bit of everything. It doesn't do anything perfect. It does a little bit of everything well enough in a well enough put together game to appease the masses, right? And that's ultimately what they're going to do. They're out to make money. They're a business. They got to make money, so they have to make their game as approachable as possible so that they sell as many copies as possible. But it would be nice if they would just add in a couple of these older systems that have been kind of watered down over the years. That would be amazing. And like, I understand, like, as a kid, obviously I had no clue what I was doing in Morrowind. I really had no clue what I was doing in Oblivion. It wasn't really until Skyrim when I kind of like was old enough to understand what was even going on or how a character build even worked. Um, but then as I got older and I started looking back at these games, I started realizing like, wow, there's a lot of stuff missing out of Skyrim as far as role playing stuff goes that a older minded person would be able to kind of would like a lot more than a kid would. Obviously, I've been playing Skyrim since I was in middle school. I'm now in my mid 20s. It looks like I'm going to be 30-something-year-old still playing Skyrim, waiting on the ElderScrolls 6 to come out. I might be, it's weird to say this, but like I might be a father. I might be a father. I might be an uncle before the sequel to a game that came out when I was in middle school comes out, and it would just be amazing to have that experience, to to have a new Elder Scrolls experience and be able to share that with a younger generation, and being because I never had someone in my life that played the same video games that I do, where they were like, "Oh, did you know you could do this in the game? Did you know you could do that? Did you know you could build your character this way? Did you know you could do that?" That I never had an older sibling or an older cousin or anything that was into gaming as much as I was, to be having those cool conversations with about building your character or role playing a certain way or anything like that. So I think that's why I resonated more with the more watered down roleplay experience that Skyrim had, and I didn't really appreciate the better role playing experience until I was a bit older. But that would just be amazing. But basically, to sum it all up, to go ahead and wrap this video up because I've been yapping for almost 20 minutes. Long story short, my crackpot theory is Elder Scrolls 6 is going to be a reboot slash remaster of Daggerfall using Starfield's procedural generation mechanics combined with the traditional Bethesda handcrafted experience we're used to combine those systems together with Fallout 4's building system, or Fallout 76's build system, and Starfield's shipbuilding mechanics to create just an absolute throwback masterpiece, and that is the reason why it's taken them 20 years to make it. That is my Copium theory. Thank you all for listening to me rambling, and we'll probably not see you again until I upload 3 years from now.